Houston's defense absolutely dominated day 9 of training camp, and you want to know why? Sacks, and more sacks with a side of turnovers.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texan podcast is for Texan fans all around. I'm your credentialed media member and Texans football analyst, John Hickman. Thank you for making the Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. And we are diving into the defense dominating day 9 of training camp. Tremon Smith fighting for his spot on this roster. Why that's important to close off the show. Myles Bryant leading the reserves. Listen, I saw a lot of good from training camp, but what really stood out to me was those reserve players, guys that'll be rotating in and out, how good they looked. And keep in mind, the offense is trying to find their way right now, and it's a little bit hard to find their way right now because the defense, this is where we kick it off, dominated day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 9. Defense, day 9 belongs to the defensive side of the ball. This is the part of talking to you guys I love the most because I can keep it real with what I saw based on being around and seeing everything live. I got 4 eyes. My 4 eyes was at training camp. And I'm going to keep it real with y'all. It was another day of defensive dominance from all 3 levels. The defensive line, the linebacker group got in on the action, and the DBs, man. The DBs is a group that they're going to turn the ball over. They're going to hit you, and then they're going to celebrate on the sideline. On day 9, I counted between 8 to 10 would-be sacks on the quarterbacks. Will Anderson got in on the party. Newcomer Darrell Taylor got in on the mix. Kamari Lassiter kicked 7-on-7 off with an interception, and he didn't let up throughout the day. Jalen Smith got in on the action with an interception after a good pass breakup on Brevin Jordan in the end zone. So not only are they getting after the quarterback, not only are they able to get tackles for loss in the run game, making it very difficult for the Houston Texans to establish any type of consistency running the ball. They're also going to turn the ball over. They're also going to celebrate on the sideline. CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to let everybody know that this is a Super Bowl caliber defense, and they're going to celebrate that way. During every team drill, I kept being optimistic that this team drill 1, team drill 2, team drill 3, every team drill, I started that team drill off with that period, in that period thinking, listen, I see the start of something consistent in terms of ball movement on the offense and the offense creating some type of flow. The fans were out there. It wasn't the prettiest of days, very muggy outside. But I wanted to come out there and see the offense create some type of, I don't know, just bring life to itself. But I left each period discouraged from what I saw. And I'm just being real with y'all, guys. Initially, I felt very discouraged, and I still do to some extent. However, I've come to the realization that this defense could be just as dominant, if not even better, with players like Kamari Lassiter and Caleb Bullock going into their second year in 2025 compared to 2024. They also added guys like CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was the best teammate that you can ask for in that DB room. Again, multiple sacks on the day 9 of training camp Friday, but all of those were not just the D-line getting after the quarterback, just simply getting after the quarterback. That wasn't the case. All right, well, you got a line like Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Tim Settle, and Mario Edwards. When you got those guys up front, when you hear 8 to 10 would-be sacks, I'm sure you're probably thinking, man, the D-line just completely wrecked it. And they did. They made it hard on the offensive line. But those guys in the back, man, the cornerbacks held it down. The safeties held it down. I thought the linebacker group did a very good job. Though the cover sacks really stood out to me for the Houston Texans day 9 because it really shows the continuity of how the defense is operating all together, right? Good coverage, sacks. your D-line getting into the face of the quarterback early and often, sacks. And then they're also creating those turnovers. The best part, again, the defense let them hear it. At some point, the offense will need to wake up, and I suspect that they will once they get away next week. West Virginia for a few days. But after every big play, you'd hear and feel the defensive sideline talking trash and letting the offense know how they feel, how practice is going. And Jay Smith intercepting Brevin Jordan. CJ Gardner-Johnson was right there on the sideline screaming, they need some more seasoning, need a little bit more salt, talking with the media. Jamal Hill had a breakup in the back of the end zone guarding Eddie and Luke Lachey. And Luke Lachey had a very good route on that one-on-one. First person to congratulate him, let everybody know how they feel on the defensive side of the ball. CJ Gardner-Johnson. Aziz got in on the action in terms of talking trash. He had a tackle for a short gain, immediately got up screaming, y'all need some more explicit energy. So on the day, the defense displayed, pure dominance. And I think when we judge how far this team can go, it's very important to just realize defensively, they're going to lead this team early in a year. The offense is going through a tough time right now, trying to figure out their way, trying to find out what type of offensive identity they're going to have. And those growing pains have been extremely difficult to handle. But when you have a defense that has vocal leaders, guys that just show up to do their job and they do it well type of leaders, you're going to put your team in the best situation to succeed in some of those games, again, especially early in the year. Listen to what Matt Burke had to say about just the defense and how great they was and being able to have guys up front all around to make plays.
No, man, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I really enjoy the way the guys are competing. I think when you have, I know there was a question earlier, like Will and Daniil and those guys, like I actually mentioned this, like, and this is just an example. I'm not trying to single anyone out, but like those guys are working to get better. Like Daniil Hunter is better than he was last year, and like he's working to get better. And Will Anderson is doing the same thing. You know what I mean? And Rank coming back here and what he's been doing, like I've seen progress in Rank from when we left him the last time, and Sting, like all these guys that are still like when those guys and your best players and your all pros are trying to get better and working, and the rest of the team sees that and the rest of the guys see that and the young guys come in and see that, like that's what you want as a coach, because now that's like it's just lifting everybody up. So I would just say top to bottom, just really pleased with the level of commitment to getting better from all levels of the defense, from front to back, from old to young, veteran to young, excuse me. It's been a fun to be around. It's a good group of guys, and excited to keep working with them.
Again, the defense dominated on the day, and one thing that stood out was the performance of the backups. Myles Bryant leads those backups, and Texan fans should feel very excited about the defensive depth. We got more Locked On Texans talk on the other side of the break. Ever wish managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money? It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you also start to build wealth. If you share your finances with somebody, Monarch has helped you stay on the same page with your partner. That's very important for a lot of us that may have kids and may want to make sure that they set themselves up for a nice future. Monarch makes it possible. They also make it easier for you. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Myles Bryant leading the way for the reserves, for the backup players, for the guys that come in depending on this situation, for the guys that may need to relieve the players in front of them. And I think that this is important to talk about simply because we talk a lot about the guys that we know. We talk a lot about Will and Daniil. We talk a lot about Derek Stingley. We talk a lot about all pro, maybe all pro, but sophomore cornerback Kamar Lassiter, who, by the way, just looks better, looks like a better cornerback, looks like a better player, looks like he's been putting in the work all offseason, working with guys that are going to get the best version out of him, iron sharpening iron. I mean, Kamar just looks more fluid as a cornerback, and that's what you want to hear. We're going to talk about Kalen Bullock. We're going to talk about Super Bowl champion C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who says that this is a Super Bowl caliber team. We're going to talk about those guys, but what about the guys that may need to come in depending on the situation, depending on the distance to first down, depending on if a player is down and the next man up needs to come in and be reliable? Well, what about those players? Today was a day where I looked at some of the reserve guys and I thought to myself, okay, these guys are having a very good camp. Names that stood out to me: Myles Bryant. I mentioned that Myles Bryant had he had a pass breakup in the end zone on Luke Lachey. Jake Hansen got in on the party as well. Darrell Taylor got in on the mix, and Matt Burke talked about Darrell Taylor, said, yeah, he's done a good job working. I would say probably a different type of rusher, different style, a lot bit twitchier and sort of an edgier guy. I want to get back to that moment. Also with the variety that he brings, I think he's growing in our techniques in the system from a play and play out standpoint. But he's a guy that has had some success as a rusher in the league, so hopefully we can take advantage of that. Also, Jamal Hill. Darrell Taylor's arrival to Houston. And what I like most about Darrell Taylor right now, just from a football standpoint, his matchups in battle against Ariante Ursary, Blake Fisher, and those tackles out there, because he's such an edgier guy. He's such a twitchier guy. He's very bendy, can get low in terms of bending that corner to get to the quarterback. It forces the offensive line, especially those young guys, to find ways to block him. And I think that's been helping out the O-line, but it's also giving the Houston Texans a trustworthy sack getter, right? But Matt Burke had an opportunity to, and I had an opportunity to ask Matt Burke about the reserve players, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, excited, man. We're trying to give all those guys opportunities to do that, to make plays. And, that's part of what this is, just moving groups around and putting guys in different spots and trying to sort of put a target on them and see if they make those plays. I mean, that's what it's for. So all those guys, everybody that's been working on the defense, just done a really good job of just being around the ball, again, being in the right spot for their technique. So, again, we preach that we don't want to chase plays. You know what I mean? If you start trying to go make plays, then you don't. You put yourself in a bad spot. So those guys that are running the techniques the way they're supposed to and being in the right spots, then the ball finds you that way. So really appreciative of all the guys working and how we're developing that depth.
He said something very important: being in the right spots. That's important. This is a team that has preached not only this year but last year. They put an emphasis on technique and doing things the right way. And Myles Bryant, again, he's a playmaker. As a backup, he's a playmaker that you can trust out there. But ultimately, overall, these are some guys that are making plays to the point where it's going to be difficult to move on from maybe some of those veteran guys. Maybe some of those younger guys are hungry and fighting for spots on the team, and they're doing things exactly how the defensive coordinator Matt Burke and DeMeco Ryans is asking of them. You want that depth, guys. At times throughout last year, and this was probably mainly in the secondary, if a player down was not available, then you felt that difference. You felt it. And so now looking at the Houston Texans and what the players that they're putting out on the field in terms of depth, those guys are not only getting after the ball, creating turnovers, creating sacks, but they're doing things in the right way that will not jeopardize another phase or another level of the defense. Doing things the right way up front, not jeopardizing the linebacker's job. The linebackers doing things the right way in the middle, not jeopardizing the guys behind them, and the guys behind them being where they need to be. So quarterbacks are not having easier throwing lanes. It's all coming together, and I think because of this, it's giving the Houston Texans offense fits, of course, making their day difficult. But they're having to find a way to not be copy and paste, which is what D'Amico Ryans has said in terms of speaking of, the difference between the two offenses under Nick Haley and the offense before him, but also, how can they beat a good defense? They have yet to beat a good defense, and I think that once they get to West Virginia, things to change for the Houston Texans offense. That's probably where they get out of the install period and move into just reps, time and time again, getting those reps in and getting those reps out. But the defense is so good that it's forcing, I think, Nick Haley to find a way to beat it. He's in a different spot in his career. He has never called plays before. He's been passing game coordinator, worked with Sean McVay, but this is different. And he's losing the battle right now. And he's losing that battle because no matter if it's first team or second team or third team, the guys on the defensive side of the ball are where they're supposed to be, making the plays, not jeopardizing each other out on the field. And when they create those plays, everybody and their mama can hear it. Literally, his parents out there, from the football, the Texas family players and their family, they're out there. And it's creating an atmosphere of chaos that hopefully the offense can learn how to capitalize on. Now, Tremon Smith, when we talk about Arthur Millette, David Arnett, the additions to cornerback of this team, none of those guys, in my opinion, have stood out. Tremon Smith fighting for his spot on his roster, I think, has done a very good job of trying to create this separation of CB3, CB4 on the outside. So when we close out today's show, we'll be looking at Tremon Smith fighting for a spot and what that means for the Houston Texans defense. However, one thing that I needed when I was out there on the field today, guys, because I had a rough night, I needed a 5-hour energy drink. I really did. And I got thinking, well, I talk about them. Let me go get me one. And that's exactly what I did. So it's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-hour energy transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're asking for the opportunity to make more memory with your friends or seeking birdies if you're out there on the golf course, this is a hole-in-one energy drink. This is one of those hole-in-ones for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and to stay energized. So golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. And, of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best part of your clubhouse. Go to without chasing down the Bev card. Go to 5hour.com, 5hourenergy.com. That is 5hour, the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code Locked On Golf, receive 20% off your order. Offer is only valid until September 30th. For one order, it cannot be used with any other promotion. This code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get energized with a boost power shot today or the transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shot now. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, closing out today's episode by talking about Tremon Smith. So let's take a look at the Houston Texans depth chart right now. Starting up top, who do we know is going to be there? Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter on the outside, Jalen Petrie on the inside. Okay, that's cemented. this offseason, the Houston Texans decided to bring in two cornerbacks at Damon Arnett, former first-round pick. He has had some, trouble, but he's fought his way back to get to the league. And he's been practicing with the Houston Texans. Arthur Millette. Okay, on the outside, we've also seen D'Angelo Ross, has been having a good camp for the times that I've seen him, right? But Tremon Smith is a player that hasn't been talked about a lot on the airwaves. I understand why. It's not a sexy name. You're not going to get out of your seat for Tremon Smith. But the fact remains is Smith has played very well for Houston Texans. A couple of times during camp, I found myself saying, wow, Tremon Smith made a play again. Another play Tremon Smith play. Oh, wow. That's another. I said his name a couple of times, whether that's just pass breakup, in on the action, being around the ball, making it difficult for a receiver to get open, which the Houston Texans cornerbacks has done a very good job of. Smith fighting for his spot is a conversation I wanted to have because everybody up top is solidified, of course. I keep saying for Smith, he's a player that I think came into the offseason, into training camp with some uncertainty on whether he make this roster. I have been also saying the Houston Texans need to do a better job of looking for a true CB3 for outside cornerback. But the way that he's played in these training camps that I've seen today, this Friday, back to last Saturday, and even some of the plays that I've seen on social media, Smith has been everywhere. Smith has been a player that has been as good as not advertised. He has given the Houston Texans coaching staff, and I also think general manager Nick Caserio, he's given them a lot to go off of to determine should we keep Smith and move on from other guys, or whether or not it's important to still keep their options open. Now, I do think it's a bit important for them to keep their options open at cornerback, but as of right now, the way that he's been playing, the way that he's benefited from the guys around him, Smith is making a case for the final 53-man roster. He is. Of course, you don't want to see him out on the field a lot. Preseason game 1, that's going to be very important. But what I like about Smith is, of course, he's on the field with other guys. He's on the field. He's stepping in when he steps in. But there hasn't been a drop-off production from the defense backfield. He's been vocal. Again, he's been around the ball. He's making plays. He's had a couple of interceptions in camp. But he's also getting down and dirty on special teams. And Frank Ross is so much of an energetic coach that you love to be around. Tremon Smith is also being an impactful player in punt return. He's a guy that understands his pathway to solidifying a role on this roster isn't just by being so much, of a cornerback, but also a team player. And what else can you do for me? And he's getting it done on special teams. He's out there performing on special teams better than a few guys, and the opportunities of him being out there is also helping his case as well. I've loved everything that I've seen from Smith. I've loved everything that I've seen from a lot of the reserve guys, because it's putting pressure on the Houston Texans general manager, Nick Caserio, to have a conversation with D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke to say, okay, if we do get in an awkward situation where our starter goes down, are we comfortable with this player being out there for a quarter, for a drive, or for some extended period of time? And guys like Darrell Taylor, guys like Myles Bryant, guys like Tremon Smith, they have made it very difficult on anybody fighting for their spot to get over them. And that's a good thing. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Until next time, ladies and gents, peace.